This comes from Julie. I have several persons that I feel devoted to. This is, at the moment, a bit confusing to me. Do I have to make a choice?
Devotion is devotion. Who's experiencing the devotion? You're experiencing devotion. What is the object of your devotion? They're just the means for you to experience your devotion. So often, devotion is able to be enriched by having other means of devotion. Devotion is an experience. It's not an act of commitment or obligation. It's not an agreement. It's what happens when you align with a possibility that that object or person or circumstances is presenting for you. So devotion is an experience of a connection between the ego with all its wishes and desires and wants and all fears, and a possibility that is sensed through the ego by the being. The being is what allows the ego to feel devotion. So when you're inspired or when you aspire, that's the being infusing your ego with the quality of itself, which draws from the Supreme itself. And that individual being infuses our ego, and it becomes more than what it could be without the being. And therefore, it's awe, it's wonder, it's gratitude, it's devotion, it's love, it's oneness. All those are words that describe the principle of devotion. Devotion brings up in us. It is also, like surrender, evidence of a movement of our ego in alignment with our being to that which is actually the source of both. And it is a recognition of that greater possibility. It is like also a possibility. In human life, something opens up in your life that was unexpected. Even that possibility is one of the expressions of moving into relationship with existence with a sense of more, greater, truer, perhaps. When we enter on the spiritual path, that devotion is always going to eventually take us to what we are in truth, the manifest aspect of that one supreme being. Interimly, devotion is a very nurturing biochemical event that happens in the body that at some point becomes a fire. So therefore doesn't feel nurturing. It becomes a passion. It becomes misery. It becomes a undoing of all the little contracted parts of everything in us that was ever emotional, anything in us that was ever had feelings or senses for the world, not just the mind, but all the parts of our system opens up in devotion, eventually purifying themselves in the fire of that devotion. Just like we can purify our awareness in the fire of knowledge, of knowing directly, knowing the Supreme. Devotion is the means in which we can be in the fire that allows us to experience our connection to all that lives, all that exists. So devotion, whatever source it comes from, may it be many, it may be unlimited, not just three, not just one. But there's another aspect of devotion. It captures our attention. If there is an object that triggers our devotion, it captures our attention. Our attention is the most powerful force even our human ego has, because what we attend to, we make real. Therefore, the more we feel devotion for an object, the more we are likely to become what that object is. Not become with our projection of what that object is, but to the reality of what that object is. Be it a tree, be it the blue sky, be it a teacher, a guru, be it your husband, your wife, your child. Devotion finds many. We merge with that which we are devoted to. That's one of the expressions of the devotion, where the one piece moves into relationship with the other piece. We call that love. We call that affinity. We call that any kinds of words you want, but it's the same process. Now, therefore, though, when we come to the spiritual path and we begin a process of transformation, there's kind of a point in a journey where you sample all the different means in which devotion or knowledge can be enriched or enhanced. But at some point, we start making movement. At some point, we start leaving the launching pad. And in that point, you better be focused, right? Because you'll fall over. Because you start lifting up, and like a rocket ship, you have farther to fall. And at first, you don't have any parachutes. So if you go up and you can't keep that going, you go down. Because there's a certain inertia, like rules of this dimension called gravity, but it's also spiritual, called that inertia, the tendency to return to the original condition. So when you have devotion, it becomes a powerful means of organizing your consciousness on the spiritual path if you are devoted to an object that reflects that devotion back to you. That is another living being. So when you are devoted to me or to any guru, you evoke the same principle in that being in response. So when Arjuna started turning his attention to Krishna as his guru and not just his charioteer and a fellow king, he began to align with what Krishna was. And in the process of those 18 chapters, became Krishna. So the power of devotion is right there also in the Mother Book with aspiration or longing. This aspiration evokes the devotion in whatever you're applying the attention of that aspiration to. The quality of devotion, as with the quality of aspiration, is that it is itself arising from the being through the ego to return to its source. So it's best to be focused. If your devotion is enhanced by being focused in one person, then for a period of time, the devotion from whatever the source would be will expand devotion itself in you. But there will be a point where you'll have to choose. No rush. Your heart will usually tell you. If you look at the secrets of yourself, your own being, it tells you already, you already know. You follow that. Don't let the mind step in as should it be them or that or this or that one or not that one. Don't worry. But when you're ready, you align. And then the real process kicks in. When I met my teacher, Sri Atmananda, I was still in the early stages of my journey. But when I went into his room, the room he stayed in Silver City, 45 minutes away from here, I met him. And I was no doubt about it. In my experience, it was substantial. And I met the person and the being of Sri Atmananda in that room, even though he wasn't physically there. And from then on, I met him again and again on the subtle world frequently until the person of him was tangible. And then when he came off the airplane, it was, oh, there he is in his body. There wasn't the same awe and wonder because here it was something that was equal to me as a body and a person. Came out of that etherical domain and became the guy walking off the ramp, dressed in white with his entourage. So this thing of making something real always will come down to something that we can match ourselves to, that we align with and become as our person. Because this body, this location, this ego that you are, this person as you are, is the only way Supreme can manifest. So it brings these beings in our life to support us. Because that's the purpose ultimately, is for all of us to wake up to the truth of what we are and therefore create an opportunity for the physical creation that wouldn't be there without that.